Today's Excel video lesson will go over 5 powerful Excel tips that I think were useful enough to put into their own video. There's an information blurb about each one in the posting, and I will put the time that each one starts if you want to skip to the one that you're interested in. Make sure you've downloaded the most recent master workbook, and you want to go to sheet 14, which says 5 tips. You'll see that first is dynamic named ranges. This is a follow-up to my named ranges video, which goes over how to name ranges in Excel using the name box up here. You'll see when I hit this drop down, a listing of the regular named ranges will show up. There's also something that's a little bit limiting about using a named range, which is that it doesn't change when your data changes. So if you want to have a named range that as you add items to the bottom underneath your list, it will keep updating the named range, you'll need to use something called dynamic named ranges. If you go to the autofill tab, you'll see that above number, day, formula, and month, I've put 4 drop-down data validation cells. And what I've done is show you a few different ways of using the name manager here to have some dynamic formulas. You'll see that in each of these I have an offset function, and these are based off of the post that I linked on Osgrid, so feel free to check that out if you want to get a little bit more background. But first I'll just show you quickly how the offset function is created. Usually what we'll use an offset function for is to take a reference and move it a certain amount of rows or columns away. But you'll see that it also has this height and width functionality that can be used to create a formula that will essentially allow you to dictate the height, in this case, or the width if you wanted to do column headers, of a range that you could then name, and I'll show you how that's done. So what you need to do is go to Name Manager and you'll hit New, and you'll see that ask you for the name, and here it has a refers to, and here's where you would put that offset function. I've already named these ranges, so I won't go into detail on that, but that's how you would name one if it already wasn't named. I've done it with 4 of the different examples from the Osgrid post, and so you'll see that the offset function in all of these cases has 0 for the row and column offset, but then has a count function, in this instance count A, which counts the number of non-blank cells in a range, or it might have a match function depending on which example from the posting I'm showing. So if we look at dynamic number, you'll see that it has offset autofill B4, which is this number 1, 0 rows, 0 columns, and then it has a count function to determine how many cells below it are actually a number. And you'll see if I click on this, it'll show 1, 2, and 3. But if I extend this downward, the named range updates, and therefore the data validation updates as well. One limiting factor is that they don't show up in this name box when you click the drop down, and so keep that in mind when you're naming your ranges, that it won't show up here. So I've gone through 4 of the examples from the Osgrid post. Here's a quick look at it. It would be the examples for 1, 2, 3, and 4, depending on which type of information is shown in your name range, whether it's a number, text, a mix of the two. So you'll see each of these will successfully update as I fill down. One of the problems with the first grouping, you'll see, is that if I delete a value in the middle, it will show the blank and it won't go to the end of it because it's counting the number within whatever range I give it. And I think in this instance I use B4 to B100, and therefore it comes up with 6 entries, and that offset function only grabs a height of 6 for the range. Same with the day. If I delete a value in the middle, you'll see it won't show me the whole range. In these 2 instances, the formulas used will not only allow the blank to show up, but it will show the full range because it doesn't shorten the range because it uses the match function instead to find where the last value is. So I'd recommend taking a read through his post and looking at these examples for how to use it. Next, I will show you how to use the Find and Select Go To Special, which can be found in the editing menu on the home page under Find and Select Go To Special. And you'll see here it has many options for what you can choose. Personally, I think the most interesting ones are constants, which will give you anything that is a hard-coded value rather than a formula. So if I click constants, it gives me some options: numbers, text, logical errors. I'll hit OK, and you'll see that it highlights everywhere where I have typed something into the cells, which is B3, B4, C1, and so on. Also, you can have it do blanks, which would give me essentially everything else. And you can also see where your data ends. So it views the last row as 23, last column as E. There was one time where I had a lot of pictures in a file and they were not showing up. So I use this objects Find and Select Go To Special to delete them all. Conditional formatting is good. Same with data validation if you're using some of the examples that I've shown. Another interesting one is visible cells. So if you're using a filter area, like on this filtering tab, and let's say we wanted to filter out every item that is priced at $10, we could go to $10 here. All of these will show up. We can go to Find and Select, Go To Special. After highlighting the rows, click Visible Cells Only, then right-click Delete Rows, and once we clear that filter, you'll see that all of the $10 items have been erased. So if you want to use it to filter a list and then delete everything you found in that filter, visible cells would work as well. It's also good when you have hidden rows or grouped rows and you don't want to extend a formula through those as well. You could do it just on the visible cells. Next, what I'm going to go over is something I refer to as 3D formulas in editing. You'll see over here I have a sheet 1 for week 1 sales, sheet 2 for week 2 sales, and a sheet 3 for week 3 sales, all with the same formatting, so that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday are all in the same area on each sheet, and each week's sales are displayed on separate sheets. I've also got this sum sheet, which essentially uses 3D formulas to grab everything between the 1 and the 3. This would be very helpful if you have many sheets and you continually update sheets. You can have a placeholder blank sheet at the beginning and the end and sum up everything in between them on a specific cell or reference. So you'll see all of these formulas have the sheet name with a colon and then this ending sheet name, which can be very useful if you've set up templates that are all the exact same format, and especially if you're going to continually update and add new ones. You can always sum whatever in between a certain number of sheets. And you'll see here I have the sum of the above, and I also have a 3D formula sum of the totals, and you'll see that these two match. And we'll just go ahead and check on one of these to make sure it's pulling in correctly. We've got quantity for Monday is 27 total. So if I click on the first one, we have 9 plus the second one is 16, which is 25. So we're getting close. And the last one has 2, which totals to 27. So it works. Now let's try doing that with another formula, and we'll write this one from scratch. Only certain formulas actually work with this 3D functionality, and I've put a listing on the 5 tips page underneath, which have all of the functions that you can use in a 3D formula. I'll take, for example, the max function, which returns the largest value, and I'll put that one in right here. So equals max. Then we'll do a apostrophe 1 colon 3 apostrophe exclamation point E6 colon E12. And you'll see it says 578. If we click through them real quick, you'll see on the third page 578 is the highest value. So feel free to take a look at those formulas and mess around and see what you can get functionality. And in this tip I also mentioned 3D editing, which is editing cells across multiple workbooks at the same time. So if I selected Sum, which I'm already on, and hold Shift and click on the 3, you'll see that they turn a different color here. Also at the top of the file, you'll see in brackets it says Group next to your file name. That means that you have multiple sheets selected. So if you're ever uncertain how many sheets you have selected, you can look up top to see if it's grouped. Another way to do this, once you click off of it to unselect them, is to go on a page and then hold Control down as you click other sheets, and you'll see they turn this white color. Now anything I do on any of the sheets will happen to all of them at the same time. So let's say if we wanted to highlight Wednesday's row, I will click on the fill, then I will click off of it so that I'm not selecting all 4 sheets, and as I click through each one you'll see Wednesday was highlighted. You can also do this with formulas and all sorts of formatting, so feel free to try it out yourself. And so next we have text to columns. If you go to the example data tab, you'll see down bottom here underneath the data above I have 2 listings. First we have full name, so it has a bunch of people's first and last name. If you select this area and click on the data tab, you'll see this text to columns area. If I click on that, delimited is what you want to choose. Hit next. I've already got space selected, but you'll see you can also use tab, semicolon, comma, or other, where you could put your own in, which I'll show you in a minute. Then it gives you the option of choosing each column, changing the data format. So I hit finish, and you'll see that it broke out each person's name into first and last name automatically by the space. If you have something else that's separating values other than one of the options they gave you, you could also do other. So in this example I've got a slash in between each of these, so I'll click text to columns, go delimited, then instead this time I will unclick space, do other, type in a slash, then hit next, and here you can change where it goes. So I'll do C61 instead and hit finish, and you'll see that it broke this out into each individual piece, but since I chose C61 it actually moved it over and left the original here, unlike here where it wrote over the original, depending on how you want to do it. And lastly, I'll show you how to customize the ribbon menu tabs and menu groups. You may notice on this home tab here I have an area called Ben, which has all sorts of functionality from Excel that I like to use a lot, like pivot tables and data validation, conditional formatting, and I've selected these myself as a custom group within the home tab, and I got rid of some of the typical ones. So if you right click on the ribbon, you'll see here it says customize the ribbon. Here you'll see a listing of all of the tabs that are currently showing, and if you hit the plus sign next to each, it will expand the options underneath them. So I've already created a new group called Ben with all of my selections. You'll see down bottom you can pick new group. If you click that, you'll see that it inserts a new group, and you can click rename to change the name of that group. Now in order to fill up the group with options, you pick them from the left side, let's say email for instance, and you'd click add to add it to the custom group. I won't go through all of that because I've already listed them here, but I will go through the options for what you can choose from. So if you click this drop down menu, this is where you can select where to narrow down the options for what they list to add. If you can't find it, chances are you will be able to find it in all commands, since this is a massive listing of almost anything you could think of in Excel. So if you're really looking hard and can't find it, try this all commands list. You can also add a new tab, which would be its own complete section, just like the home and insert and data areas. And it has some additional tabs if you click on all tabs here, which aren't typically showing. So depending on if you use more pivot table tools or chart tools or whatever, you could have that showing at all times. So that's basically all for this lesson, and I hope you enjoyed it.